Oh, I know. When I first saw it, I was like, who is this man?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello.
Welcome to the 94th episode of the GeekVerse podcast.
94th?
94th.
Mm-hmm.
What is this reference? This has to be a reference.
I feel like
Well, it's the 94th episode.
Are you sure? It's where we've done...
We did 93 last week with Get Out, and then there was a news one that was 91.
Are you sure it wasn't 100?
No, 92, and then Lego Batman was 101.
Because we just did our 100th episode, didn't
What? We did. What did I say? I said 94th?
Yeah.
Fuck. It's 104th.
There we go.
I don't know. I'm really emotional.
I swear we had like a special. Like,
Are we on a different timeline here?
Yeah.
I'm like, I thought this is going up like right now, which means it should be.
In my mind, it's at 104th, and that's why all you guys are questioning me. Like, no, like we're clearly like it's been 4 weeks since that.
We're past the 100 mark.
I'm the very confused, very happy, very sad, very emotional, very thrilled to be here, Travis
That's a
Snell.
lot of things to be.
Mhm.
That's a lot to live up to.
Yes.
I am X64.
Oh wow.
I
A
am
little reference and a half.
speechless, Tyler Briggs.
I was going to do X25. You kind of stole my thunder.
Eh.
Okay, I'm
Go for it.
X25, Jessica.
Mm-hmm. As you've seen by the title, we've been talking about this for weeks, ever since the trailer dropped. Logan review. We're going to give our quick overalls first. So if you haven't seen the movie, you can watch this little ditty, and then we're going to jump into spoilers, full-on spoiler discussion. If you've seen this before, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty things. If not, prepare yourselves. I'm going to start.
Okay.
I've been waiting for this movie forever. My overall, with no spoilers, I think, if you listen to this cast, you know I was very excited for this movie. So you're probably thinking, like, I loved it automatically going in. And this year for me, or last year, was a good, big example of, like, Rogue One. I heard all these fans like it, and reviews that I was like, man, I'm really pumped. I'm so excited. And I was really let down. I still like the movie. I was really let down. So I knew, like, it has just happened to me recently, so I was preparing myself. But I was like, I'm still have lots of expectations. I think we've talked about this many times on Dynamic Duo that The Dark Knight's always referred to this as a great movie or a great film, where comic book movies are kind of like, oh, that was good for a comic movie, that was good for that. And there's been so many comic book films since 2008. Plethora, like dozens and dozens of one. And the conversation has still been, there's not one as good as The Dark Knight. I think we officially have one that is in contention, or you can talk and say, hey, there's a Dark Knight, but there's also this. You know, I think there's movies that were close, like Iron Man and Deadpool and Guardians, were movies that people like my mother, people that don't like comic book movies, can say that's just a great movie. The only one 100% was Dark Knight that you could say that, but I think there is a second one now. This movie's brutal, this movie's heartbreaking, this movie's heartwarming, this movie's emotional, it's action-packed. For me, it checked every box that I wanted, and it was a great, fun thriller ride that I did not want to end, and then it ended, and then I was crazy. I cried multiple times in this movie. The first time I saw Professor X, I cried.
You know what? As soon as
I did, because he's just in such bad shape, and I'm like, oh my god.
I'll be honest, as soon as it started, I turned to the secretary and I was like, you want to place bets on how many times Travis cries? And she just said the whole movie.
I did like multiple times of like big crying and then like little like tears, you know?
Yeah.
So, but overall, for me, fantastic. One of the best movies I've ever seen. So that's my overall.
Well.
Yeah, so who wants to take it from there?
Tyler wants to follow that up.
Going in a counterclockwise, folks.
As, like, for me, I went to it with, like, really big expectations, but I wasn't sure how it would do. I had a couple hints that there were a couple things I thought it might do poorly and let me down. But as you said, like, it is probably my favorite film, like, the best film I've seen that I can remember right now. Like, that I can think of off the top of my head. Like, for me, that was just phenomenal. Probably the best comic book film I've seen. And just, for someone who doesn't have, like, that much of an emotional attachment to the X-Men, that hit me like a truck. Like,
like a truck.
There were 3 times where I was, like, with you, I was crying. And then there was probably 1 or 2 times where it was, like, a little tear just, like, came down. And, like, the whole drive home, I was just trying to think about things that I could, like, be like, okay, maybe could have done this better, maybe could have done that better. And there was really nothing. There's like, I thought the one scene, I was like, you know what, no, that was really good. Like,
yeah, and like it's an honest one. There were a couple times where I was like, oh, if they do this or go this way, I'm like, oh, this is gonna bring it down for me. It never did. You know, it was like it took. This movie takes a lot of turns, and this was like one thing I'll say for you guys goes non-spoiler. The trailer does not show you as much as you think it does. Like you can watch and be like, oh, I know the movie, and I felt that way at the halfway. I'm like, okay, I know what's gonna happen. This is this, and then like there's multiple turns where you're just like, what the fuck is this? This came out of nowhere. And I love that in a trailer, you know, because we don't get that so much. Like, off-cast, we were just talking about, like, Alien coming to end life. Like, these trailers that were like, man, like, it was good up until this point, and then it's like, we feel like we know the rest of the movie. Where this is, it reminds me, we already said before, but it reminds me of Force Awakens, when we went there, and we knew scenes, but we didn't know where they were placed and what the context was. So,
one of the big thing I noticed, I didn't notice it until the end of the film, but a lot of films, I'll be watching it, and then I'll kind of be taken out of the film, where I'm just kind of like thinking about like, why did they do this, and I'm like thinking about the film as I'm watching it, and at no point did that happen to me. Like, I was just so engrossed with
that
it
was
the
Get
entire
Out for
time.
me.
Yeah, exactly. And like that really takes away from a film, and it's like not at no point did that happen during Logan, and I can't think of a film in a long time that's done that for me. So
cool. Yeah. For me, I loved it as well. I think, you know, me and Tyler, we just watched Get Out 2 days ago, so I was joking. And people love that movie, and I did not. And I think one of the big things was that I was just never really felt invested. You know, I was never really that captivated, but this movie just had me from start. Like, for the first, 60% of it, I was literally just glued to my screen, couldn't think of anything else. All accumulated right to that, ending scene, and so, it going down for a little bit, it seemed like it was intentional just to bring it up for that amazing finish. And so, I mean, I don't get a tear in my eye very often when we go to movies. I don't think I've ever, fully cried for a movie, but I actually got tears from this movie. So, props to you, whoever made this movie. I don't know.
James Mangold.
James Mangold.
Yeah.
He is Mangold. That's
that was very nice.
Yo,
he's an Academy
highest
Award
of honors.
Yeah, he's an Academy Award nominated director.
Congratulations to you.
Well deserved.
So yeah, I mean, I was very excited for this movie as well, just like you guys. But there was a couple things from the trailer that I didn't know how it would translate, and we'll get into that in the spoilers section. But overall, those things just kind of flew out the window. There was only one point in the movie that kind of bugged me a little bit, and so we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. But overall, this movie was phenomenal, and I'm just a little bit in shock, I guess. I don't think I was expecting it to be that good.
Yeah.
But it was that was amazing. Yeah. And then also, as soon as it ended, right after the S goes to black, the lady behind me was like, "What the fuck?" She was just disappointed or something. I'm like, "You're an idiot. Get out of here." And then also, everyone who was there and there was no scene at the very end was just really mad.
Spoilers for that. There's no end.
I'm guys, you waited for 4 minutes to see the credits of a phenomenal movie. You can, go home happy.
There was a lot of gang bosses on those credits.
There was.
You noticed that too?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
I also know someone's name is Severino, and I was like, that is an amazing name, and I wish I had that name.
I missed that one. Should have been your nickname.
That was the thing that whenever me and Tyler are watching the credits of the movie, we always look at the names and mention some of them, and that one was pretty hype.
I have to say, after the film ended, and
be careful.
All right, so there were credits. Okay,
I know that's at the end of
the film did end. It does
should be a movie that starts with all the credits. That would be
so there's I completely forgot about the ending scene. I was so engrossed with the film, and I was people started getting up. I was I just want to sit here. I don't care about anything. I just want to sit here and just absorb these emotions and just be what just happened.
You took a little too much green potion.
Exactly. This was one of the first films I can think of where I didn't look at any of the names. I saw them scrolling past, and I was not thinking about that. And white. I just
Well, Jessica, what did you think before we slip into some? Because you were legitimately the only person I knew in life that was not blown away by that first trailer. The Angels came out and sang that trailer, but you're like, oh, it looks alright. What do you feel? Because we've not talked about what each other feels yet on this cast. So
I mean, I talked with Matt on the drive home, and he gave it the same as you guys, glowing reviews, loved it, and I can totally understand it. I don't feel the same. I'll throw it out there right now. It is. I can understand where the love comes from, but it's just not necessarily, I guess, not my movie. So I mean, once we get into spoilers, like I'll bring up some of the things that I just
Please
didn't
do.
like about it. But I mean, I think part of it is just there was no tears. I mean, yeah, that's about all I can say without really giving away too much. Is I can understand the love, but I don't have it.
Nice.
Okay.
All right, we're jumping into spoilers. If you haven't seen it, come back when you have seen it. If you are, buckle up.
Go see it.
Spoilers in 3, 2, 1. Logan fucking dies.
I was gonna say that.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. That's what I was literally just like motionless when it
I
happened.
feel like that's not a spoiler. I feel like everyone knew that.
Yeah,
had to
I
happen.
feel like it
I feel
kind
like
of
of all the things that spoil, that's like the.
I mean, it's not like in the trailer, like
True.
BBS or something.
We thought he couldn't, but no, like, and I almost was worried when they buried him that the rocks were gonna move or
Oh,
something like that.
I was like, they're not gonna do it.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
really
If they did,
worried.
I probably would have walked out.
Yeah,
I
I
would have
was
missed 1 minute of the
not
movie.
like this.
I was so worried, but I think I got to start off with like my most major pro. He's been doing it for 17 years. I think Hugh Jackman kills it in this
Yeah.
movie. Like
Oh my gosh.
playing just this like kind of destroyed like shell of a man. He did it perfectly. Where some people it could feel really forced or cheesy, but like, and he felt like at times where like I still love him, but it felt like there's times where you almost like didn't like him, because he was just so over. Like he multiple times just leaves Laura, and he's like, "Yeah, Charles, I'm gonna go get her," and he's like, no, he's just leaving her.
Yeah.
Like he's a completely selfish, like terrible person at times in this movie, and then you get to see him
Well, that's
like.
the thing. When they're leaving the house, and he's like, "No, don't forget Laura." He's like, "Just stay here. All you have to do is just like follow me," and then she gets in the car. He doesn't even have to go back for it. It doesn't make sense.
Oh yeah, I get. I
It's
think
because
he just didn't want
he
the
didn't want
burden of
anything.
her.
Yeah.
No, I know he didn't want her, but that like as Patrick Stewart, why wouldn't he be like, "Just come"? Like,
Because he's a look. He doesn't look like he's exactly in his right mind.
I
I'll throw out
want.
there.
You shouted out Hugh Jackman. I want to shout out Patrick Stewart.
He did
I
great.
Yeah, I thought he did a really good
I
job.
thought everybody was great in this movie. From like I'll get into them later, but yeah, with Jackman, I did feel that he did a great job, and you got to see like his rise again to becoming like Logan Wolverine.
Well,
That
how
was the
long has
best
he been
one.
doing? He's been doing that character for over
17 years.
17 years.
Yeah.
Wow, I was about to say maybe just over a decade. That's
Longer
a long
than
time.
James
And I
Bond,
think-
longer than Captain
I
Kirk.
didn't really realize that until like after. I was like, wow, I've been watching this character forever,
Mhm.
and he's finally like dead, and like a lot of characters in comic movies, they're dead with a big quotation mark around it,
Mhm.
but he's actually dead. It was.
Well, see,
You could definitely feel like all the love he has for that character
Mhm.
just
Isn't he
over the years
technically
and
not,
sticking to it.
like
and
they could make X-24 again. So
Well, but Logan's dead. Like that person, James Howlett is
Hugh
dead.
Jackman's
Right? Yeah, Hugh
Yeah,
Jackman's
Hugh
done.
Jackman,
Yeah,
that's a big
like
part.
he's
Yeah.
done, and that's why it's like for me, I was always like, man, I really want him in Deadpool 2.
Mhm.
After seeing this, I don't know. I don't ever.
Mhm.
I still think the best option is to put Hugh Jackman, the actor, in Deadpool 2 and make that joke. But I don't want Hugh Jackman
Yeah.
playing Wolverine anywhere near again. As much as I was like, man, I don't want to say goodbye. You can't do that finale because if you did
well,
that,
that was good justice right there.
yeah, like you couldn't do that finale and have it come back, and then
Mhm.
if you ever watch it again, it wouldn't mean the same anymore.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
you'd lose it.
Especially because there's a lot of people like me, and I'm sure Tyler as well, where like Wolverine is a character outside of Hugh Jackman for you, but for me, that's really all
Mhm.
the character Wolverine is. Like
Yeah.
I've seen him in like a couple animated shows, like in an episode or two, but like
yeah.
that's Wolverine for me.
Well, and I think comic book movies, like lots of people always say, they suffer from not having stakes, and that's the thing with him dying at the end.
Mhm.
It did actually, like, it felt heavy, and it felt like it was real. Where most of the time, like, you look at Superman and BVS, like, he died. I cried a little, because when comic book characters die, I cry. But, like, when the rocks move it, then you're like, okay, well, this, like, now when I watch BVS again, it's like, this means nothing, because she's just
Yeah.
back next time. You
Yeah,
know, where
exactly.
this really, it feels final. And that's why I don't
Mhm.
want to see anything ever again, because it feels so final and so real. And, like, I fucking... Like, you were crying big time. Kyle was crying. I looked, there were so many people crying. I'm sorry for the theater people. I have napkins on the floor that was filled with tears. But, like, I was like, covering my mouth because I was, like, quivering. Like, I was almost audibly about to make noise.
Oh
I'm
my
like, no,
goodness.
don't do this to embarrass yourself. And I contained myself. And then when she took the steak and put an X, I fucking died. Like,
Oh
I was
my
like, oh,
goodness.
no.
Yeah.
Like, that was perfect. Like, and that's why, too, like, it's a side conversation. But they don't need him anymore because, like, I need them to follow her. Like, I need an X-23 movie now. I just want a movie of her and those kids just, like, on their own doing their shit. Like, she was great. And because, like, I'm just jumping to her because, like, people might discount her role because she doesn't speak that much. But what she does with her facial expression, so much emotion and passion. Like, when she's mad, when she's sad, when she's trying to, like, make a connection, you can feel that. She's not just, like, angry face. Like, you feel like she's acting through her
Well, I
face.
mean, yeah, that's the thing. a lot of movies, they need these child characters, and sometimes child actors, it's
children.
it's no offense to them,
exactly.
but sometimes they're not
Star
that great.
Wars.
Yeah, and that's a great example right there. We all love pod racing, and she
Honey!
she was great, and she doesn't say a whole lot for like the first half or whatever of the movie, but it's just all about like the body language and stuff. And one point that like one of the things from the trailer that I was worried about was like some of her fighting scenes. I thought like really stupid in the trailers. Honestly, like I thought that it looked really awkward. But in the movie, I don't know if they like took those scenes out or something, but I didn't see any like moment where I thought that her fighting looked like out of place.
Yeah,
the only
she
thing
looked
for
believable.
the only thing that I was a little disappointed was like apparently she has like sword feet, and I wanted to see some of that because we've seen Hugh Jackman fuck people up with his hands.
See the, like,
we saw it
long,
once.
like, one.
Yeah, and like that was like that's like a new fighting type you can have with this kind of character.
Did she have
like,
one?
I don't know,
She
I
only
wanted to see
had
it.
one.
No, she has them on both
She has them
feet.
both,
Yeah.
No, but sorry, like one spike out of her.
Yeah. So it's like the classic like 3, but she
Yeah.
has 2 and then
Okay.
1 down there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's.
I
Still,
wanted to see more of that
Yeah.
because like they literally only did it once.
I think they showed off a
she-
lot in that scene, but they didn't really do it again.
She did use them when she was fighting X-24 at the end, and like they just
She-
didn't
she-
show it
yeah.
off. It was just
Yeah.
part of the what she was
It's
doing,
kinda hard to see
and
it
it
as
wasn't like there was no focus on it, so it was hard to notice it. But she did use them in
Right.
later fights. It just didn't.
I
It
think
was
there
hard to
might be
notice.
some rose-colored glasses watching this because I definitely did see scenes where I thought it was kind of awkward with her fighting. So
Well, I mean, I did it in the trailer, so I mean, it's not like I've like biased toward that, like it didn't happen in the movie, but I thought so in the trailer. So I honestly, I think there was a scene where she did like a flip into someone, and like it looked really weird, but it just wasn't in the movie, or they changed it or something.
Yeah, I felt it could have been editing. Like, yeah, I felt her fighting stuff, like, it came off natural to me because, like, Logan's is this, like, brooding and big and heavy, and she's, like, this kind of, like, high flyer and whatnot, and she has heightened senses, like, so, like, I guess, like, I loved it, obviously, but, like, yeah, I didn't see anything that, like, I would never once take it out, like, oh, that's kind of weird, because I even thought, because I've seen it in comics for years, but I even wondered the few scenes that she does use her foot claw if it was going to be awkward. I didn't think it was. Like, there's times where she'd like backflip and catch a guy and then like flip them. Like, I thought it was a really cool fighting style that I think you said like we've not seen in an X-Men movie before, and that's why like the closest I would think is like Mystique, but in the newest ones, Jennifer Lawrence, she doesn't really do that because it's Jennifer Lawrence, so she's just kind of like there. But in the originals, Mystique was always flipping around and whatnot, so it's like that brought me back to that. So I liked that. What was I gonna say before we move on to Stewart? Is there anything you want to say more on Jackman or X-23? Just because you didn't say anything on Jackman, so I just want to make sure we get everybody before we move on.
I like Jackman. I thought that he did do a really good job, kind of playing the slowly dying. I will give him that. I didn't like X-23. I don't.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know. Her screams. I get that it's supposed to be like the reminiscent of Logan screaming, but her scream just every time I just
took you out of it.
Yeah, I was not digging it. And there was something I don't know. Her facial expressions. There's something. It was just. I didn't like her.
Oh, see, that's what sold it for me was because I was the same thing going in about kid actor, but her facial expressions in the very first scene when she's eating cereal and those people are coming in the room and just the way she like looks around and she just looks at them and she has this look of like, hey, I'm prepared, but I'm gonna fuck all these people up. Like she just had so much with her eyes and her face, and that's what sold me on her big time. Like I think other than Jackman, like
see, but I can agree that was a good scene.
Yeah.
But that one scene doesn't.
I think, but
the
for me,
whole
the
movie?
the other scene that she proves herself to me is when her and Jackman are talking, and they're in that big conversation. She ends up punching in the face a bunch of times. Yeah, in the car. Like there was other scenes that I thought she like proved herself, and I loved the scenes with her and Xavier because that was the only time she was kind of like kiddish in a way. And that one time with the guy in her room when she's like looking at the iPod and whatnot. Yeah. And I like that. They gave her a sense of danger because when she walked into that room with the kid, I was nervous because I wasn't sure what was going to happen. I wasn't sure if she was just exploring, if she was going to fuck this kid up. Like, I wasn't sure she was going to... Like,
really? I did not have that vibe at all.
Because the thing is, in the comic, she kind of like accidentally kills her mom because she gets in a fit of rage. There's like an antidote, and if you throw it on someone, she just kills them automatically, and she can't stop herself. So I was like...
Wow. So she has a mom in the comic books?
In the comics, it's the same thing. A professor kind of takes her on. It's the same thing. It's like what Gabriella was.
Inserted into an egg in a womb, and then... So
No. It's still a test tube, but like she's like kind of the adoptive mother. Like she's who she views as a mother, and then the evil bad guys don't hand on her, and she kills her, and then she just like snaps out of her, and her mother's dead. So it's very similar. And that's why I think I thought they might be hinting at that because at one point the Gabrielle character, she had a bandage around her arm, she was bleeding, so I wasn't sure if they were hinting that she couldn't really control her rage.
Yeah.
But that's what I think they did for me. I think they did on purpose because when she went in that room, I was really nervous, and there's many times where I was really nervous in this movie. And I think the tension in this movie is great. And I loved X-23. I gotta shout it out. I loved. Great job. But Patrick Stewart, Jessica, you wanted to talk more about him because you started off before.
I really liked him. I thought he did a great job with his dementia, multiple personality seizure thing going on.
Yeah.
So, and I will shout out to you that I really love the look of the contact with the one blind eye.
Yeah.
So I thought that looked really cool. I don't know. It's really interesting that it goes from in the last couple movies. They've almost tried to make him he look pretty young for his age, and then this one they actually have to make him look older. So, and I thought that they did a really good job of kind of transitioning him to actually look as old as he does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, with scraggly hair and everything.
Yeah, I think the look was good, and I think the acting was superb because he did a good job of this character you've seen he's always in pristine condition, and he's always a leader, and he's always in a suit,
in so much control of himself.
Yeah, and this was they say it in the movie, but what's more dangerous than this guy with this mind power, a huge power, having dementia.
They said he killed 600 people or injured
600 people, killed, was it 70 or 7?
Something I couldn't hear if it was 7 or 7 because I heard
was that from one of his seizures as well?
Well, yeah,
I would imagine so.
Because there's a couple times I couldn't really hear what was going on exactly.
That lady behind
they were,
yeah. She was making some comments.
Yeah, because they were in the car and Logan had the radio on and they were talking about how a year ago or something, he had a seizure in New West.
Yeah.
So I guess that's how they kind of explain that where all the X-Men are. So he accidentally killed them, which is kind of a switch.
No, he didn't kill the X-Men.
That's the way I took it because
because they're in the forest and that guy's this is the guy that killed all the mutants.
Yeah,
and he's
that's true.
He's oh, he didn't mean to say it in such an abrupt way.
I think
I don't know about that though because it could have been a bit of both.
I think when he said that he meant he made it so mutants were no longer being born. He kind of
because the radio says
changed.
Winchester and that's where the mansion is.
Yeah.
So that's why I think because anytime you see Xavier School Winchester, so that's why I think he accidentally killed people. And the reason I'll jump to that conclusion is because in the comic that this is based off, it's reversed where Logan actually accidentally kills all the X-Men. Mysterio comes in, hypnotizes him. Logan goes to sleep. He wakes up. He's covered in blood. All the X-Men are dead, and that's why he's not Logan or Wolverine anymore. He leaves, and he's like, I don't want to go by that name. I killed all my friends. So I think that was their little nod to the comic book, but they changed it a bit for X to do it. I don't know for sure.
I
just because it's in Winchester.
Got the same feeling as Jessica that he was just somewhere in a public place with a lot of people around.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how many X-Men there is, but if he injured 600 people. That's not at the
but if it's
so.
all of Winchester, right? So it's that's where I think, if you think about it, if the people in
the
mansion,
one he had at the hotel was just on that block or just in that
true.
one.
But he's been taking meds, whereas he might not have been taking those meds a year ago.
Plus, we don't know how many people. We don't know how many people are in that school. He could have been a big, busy school.
Well, how many X-Men are there? Or how many students were in the X-Mansion?
20-something years after.
Well, yeah, that's why we don't know because they said a year later, and in Days of Future Past, the school's up and running, right? Mm-hmm. And then it would be 20 years from now. Apparently, the school's still up and running. So I imagine, who knows? Because at the end of the day, this is not going to matter because we're not going to see these people. Yeah. It's just another thing of anytime you watch the X-Men prequels, you all know all these characters are going to all die. You know, that's why I don't like the X-Men being prequels.
Well, I would like to know kind of what happened exactly there. It's pretty ambiguous now that I think of it.
It could play into the future. Who knows? There was another thing that I thought played in the future too that had nothing to do with it. When Steve Mercer, who I thought did a great job, he played Caliban. He's a really comedic actor. He does a lot of stuff for Ricky Gervais. He's directing a kind of a comedy wrestling movie right now. I thought he was great, but at one point,
I swear I thought that was the guy who plays Vision.
Yeah.
No, it's not Paul Bettany. No,
I swear. The voice too. That's
very. I don't know. He looked familiar.
Is this a guy with the neck tattoo?
No. Caliban's the white
albino
guy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he's primarily a comedic actor, but at one point he's dead on the table, and the main guy, I can't remember the character's name, the doctor, because I don't think it's a comic book guy. He says take his DNA because he's a tracker and he's really smart. And I'm like, is that gonna do anything? And they didn't. So I wonder if there's still a point of this, we're making this a final movie for Hugh Jackman, but I could see them doing the X-23 movie. I think is the next logical step with this director and this thing, because I think they could still do rated R movies. I don't think they're going to make the X-Men rated R, right? So it's like Deadpool's a different type of rated R, so I think this is going to do really well. The rated R-ness in this is like the first scene is brutal. Like you literally just see claws through a guy's like cheek and face. Like I was like I heard that was brutal.
The one scene he was in like the doctor's office and his body was all ripped
Oh
off.
yeah.
I was so happy with that scene.
I was caught off guard, and like when Laura walked out with that fucking head and just
oh my gosh,
whipped it at people.
Wow.
Like I heard it was brutal, but it felt like
that scene like looked super fake though.
See it, but I'm the same with Tyler. I was so engrossed that nothing took me out of it. I wasn't like, oh man, that head, because at one point he rolled the head, and when the head stopped, at Pierce, the eyes moved, and that's when I was like, oh, that's fucking so cool. Like, yeah. I don't know where we're going. What were we talking about? So they set up before we go back to Patrick, they did set up something and they never answered it. So I think there is a little seeds planted for like, hey, this is a Soul movie, but in the future, if we want to maybe continue this sort of lineage, we could go.
I just want to clarify.
Yeah.
They're all X-23 though, right?
Yeah, but they're
she's
just
the
gonna call
official
X-23. Yeah, because she's the official X-23. They'd be
she's kind of
X-23.
like the poster girl for the X-23.
Yeah, exactly, which was pretty good. Yeah, and yeah, Patrick Stewart. Did you guys have any more to say on him? Because yeah, go ahead.
Prime. Well done. I didn't have a whole lot more to say. Just like phenomenal job.
Yeah.
I love like just the way he played that sort of mentally ill in a way, and he kind of had that just like he's just like he had those comedic moments, and they didn't feel wrong.
Yeah.
Like there are so many ways that you can just like for like such a heavy emotional movie to like make those scenes seem so cheesy and just like out of place, but they just like fit so well.
Well, yeah, and that's why, like, I hate to compare, but that was like my biggest like gripe with Doctor Strange was some of the comedy always felt a little forced or felt like, oh, we need a funny spot here. Or most of the for me, all the comedy, because it was very subtle, but this is what I think people like when they talk about movies being dark, like being kind of fun or whatnot, like when especially when they're referring to DC, they don't have to be like, this movie's dark, but it has like moments of levity or moments that I think are heartwarming in this. You know, like to me, I point out is the dinner scene. The dinner scene is one of my favorite scenes with them all around with that other family. It's so good because they're just joking, and when Xavier's like, I had a school for special needs, and Logan's like, would you refer to it as that? And he's like, well, I would refer, like, talking about you, I would, you know, like you were, like, just these back and forth, like, it was so good, and it felt, like, natural. And even Stewart, like, it didn't feel like he was playing someone with, like, dementia or anything like that. Like, it did feel natural, like, as someone that, like, did volunteering back in the day. Like, it felt very realistic, so, yeah, he did a great job.
It's a train, a choo-choo.
Yeah.
I will say, too, that he did a good job, like, with his conversations with himself when X-23 was being mute or whatever, and he would just kind of have his, like, one-sided conversation. And I will say, too, that it made me really happy, the scene with the horses, and he, like, focuses really hard to try and get them to calm down.
Is the back and forth between Logan and Professor X. Like, they really expand on, like, the 17 years of working together.
Just gonna say, like, that's another character who we've seen for so long, too, and, you know, another character from here who he is Professor X, you know? Even though, you know, James McAvoy's great and all, but he's no Patrick Stewart. And,
exactly.
Yeah, I thought he was phenomenal in this movie. I think he played, like, up like the mental illness factor like very, very well. Like it seemed like incredibly believable, and all the little moments. Like I still think Hugh Jackman was like the star of this movie, but he was like it was a very good farewell for him as well.
It was it was a farewell, and it wasn't overbearing, and like how they did it too was like, I love that there's this really dramatic scene where we'll get in this whole thing, but like he's killed. And then there's a lot of action, and at first, once again, I was like, oh, I'm going to be disappointed, because I thought he's going to be dead, and they kind of gloss over, like, oh, he died, Logan stared at his dead body and had this moment with him, and then they moved along. But then when he goes to bury him, and he says, like, that's the one I started breaking a lot, when he's like, oh, at least it has water, you know, and he keeps repeating to himself, like, at least it has water. And that's where it's like, they gave it a moment of, like, heightened action, but then a moment that to let it sink in and kind of set him off. Like, he's gone.
Be related to something?
No, I think it was just like he just wanted to put him somewhere nice, you know, like somewhere that he felt deemed like worthy to put Professor X or his friend.
They wanted to like just go on a sun
the boat, the Sunseeker,
the Sunseeker, just get away from everything, just go to the water and then or like a little pond there, and I thought that was just like really.
I was waiting for her to say at least it has water in her little
I'm a little glad. Like I thought that there might be something like that. Like some would have said.
I like that she repeated what he had said to her about it's a brand and everything, like healing's a brand and whatnot. What was I gonna say? Let's get into villains quickly. What do you guys? We can start with the main guy, Donald Pierce. He's like he had the robot hand. He was like kind of the Terminator of this movie. What did you guys think about him?
I thought he was pretty good. I think that the villains in this movie, they went for like very one-dimensional villains, and I think that might have been a good route to take because this was a movie all about the three main characters, and so I mean in many movies I would maybe not like this villain. I would think he's pretty bland and doesn't have very much depth, but I think in the sense of this movie he worked as like just a kind of badass guy.
I think
pretty cool.
If we got too much, we would have lost scenes of X and Laura and Wolverine.
So I think he fulfilled his role pretty well. But
what did you think about the other guy too? We can just lump them together.
Like the main
Dr. Rice,
I thought he was like pretty lame, honestly. Like relative to that guy, like he was also very like cliche kind of villain. And I like a lot of movies do this. And we've seen this our whole lives, where like the villain's like revealing that entire plot, and then something happens. And that was the one part I was mentioning in my non-spoiler. Like this is the part that bothered me. Of like they know X-23 is still out there. Like that's one kid they don't have. And like why is he fucking telling Logan his plan? Like this is gonna go sour. Just fucking kill him and be done with it. Like that was the one thing that bothered me.
You can't take any more damage.
Well,
that was the one thing that like. Just made me a little bit like it didn't make me mad. It was just like, come on, man. Like in this movie right now, like this could have been dealt with in another way. Like you don't need to have the classic scene where the villain's revealing his plot and then something goes wrong because he.
I do like because I don't know if it was on purpose, but I did like most of the time the villain reveals her plan and like you said, stuff goes down. I like that in the midst of him revealing his plan, Logan just fucking shoots him right in the head. And that's what I love. Like, I felt like, and you could be right, but I felt like they were in a way like, oh, we're going to have this classic scene where the villain, like, reveals her whole plan and talks to Logan. But Logan's like, no. And he just shoots him. And it just was like a perfect representation of Logan and who he was. So I can see where you're coming from, but I think it was put there for a different reason. I have no idea. But that's what I'll tell myself when I go to sleep tonight.
I think the reason it kind of bothered me a little bit is everything in this movie, like, wasn't necessarily realistic, but it just made so much sense, and like it was just so captivating, and that was the one thing for me that took me out of it a little bit, because that was the only thing that seemed out of the realm of possibility.
That's
like
fair
everything
enough.
else in the movie seemed, perfect, and it should fit.
Fair enough.
That was the one thing that took me out of it a little bit.
Yeah.
But I mean, that character had like two or three scenes, so there's not really much to say about him.
Well, and I was a little thrown off with that character because I had to look it up at Marvel Wiki because like I knew Dr. Rice was a character, but it threw me off when he says like, "Oh, like you knew my dad" or something like that, and I thought they were referring to Logan and Stryker, and I looked it up. Like, there's no history of like whose dad was.
Yeah, no, I thought so too.
Yeah, so like that was the only thing that took me out of that scene for a fanboy thing, because I was like, is this the comic character I'm thinking of? Is it not even a comic character? I feel like it is. Like there is a comic character called Xander Rice, but I feel like they just kind of took it and did it. Like he does have a history with X-23, and I know who he is, but like it was even weird to bring up this whole. That's the only thing. Like it doesn't bring any points down for me, but even the subplot of like, oh, like you knew my dad. Doesn't matter if Logan knew your dad. Like you're still like. You're gonna kill him or he's gonna kill you, right? Like it was kind of a strange little thing, but so I thought that actor was really good for what he did. I thought he played out this like really like obsessed with sort of mutants thing good. Mm-hmm. The thing is that the person I really liked was Donald Pierce. I'm very excited because he was cast in the lead of Predator, and I was like, oh, I don't know much about Boyd Holbrook, and I was like, oh, like there's other people out there. I really liked him in this movie. I found him really intimidating. I liked his rapport. The first scene when he's in the limo with Logan and he's just like, oh, I'm a big fan, like it's such a pleasure to meet you. Like he's just like I found him intimidating, and that's the best thing. Where lots of times I'm fine with one-dimensional villains, but lots of times they're not scary. They don't even have a personality. His one-dimensional is I just gotta get Laura, right? But like he's charismatic while he's doing it, and to me he's more memorable than probably villains that I've seen the past 5 years that were one-dimensional, because he actually had like a character or a personality. Where most characters just like, I'm gonna kill you or I need to destroy the world. Where he just stuff when he kicks Logan and he's like, oh, it's a shame to see you this way, like it breaks my heart, those are gonna rip your fucking heart, and he just stomps him mid-sentence. Like that's like enough. Like
good point.
I really liked him there. So what did you two think? I just had to jump in.
I thought it was like the villains were so well done, and One thing I liked about it was that they didn't focus on there being some like big greater plot. It was literally is like it. I guess this goes for the whole movie, but it was just so focused on the small story, and that there wasn't anything distracting from it.
Yeah,
which I thought was great. And like the villains, I'm glad they spent like as little time as they did on them. Because it, as you said too, like it would have taken away from the exchanges of Logan and X-23 and
that's to me where it felt like Terminator. When the Terminator just wants to kill Sarah Connor. You don't like he doesn't have motivation or anything like that. It's just like I need to kill her. I'm programmed to do that, and that's what this felt like. That like this little guy's one job. He has to do it. Let's go. And there was no like, and I love his death too. Yeah. When all the kids just circle around him and use all their powers at the same time. It's like, oh good, because you're a piece of shit character.
It got very dark right there, and I'm like.
Yeah, Jessica, what did you think about the villains?
I agree with what Dylan was saying. Definitely, they were just kind of, definitely very one note. You started talking. I was trying to sit here and like think of things that happened that were really memorable, and you're talking about all these scenes, and I'm like, I totally forgot those happened until you brought them up. So the only scene that I could think of that I actually liked him was when she does come out, and he's just like Laura, and like trying to be all nice to her.
As she's carrying that head.
Well, yeah, and I like that even like this is a script thing, but I like even little stuff like he called her honey, and it made it like really uncomfortable for a second, and he's like almost talking to her like an adult female, and he called her honey and like sweetheart. It was like really like he came off really gross. He kind of reminded me of Jeffrey Dean Morgan in Walking Dead. If I was watching, like he was just this like slimy guy, and I thought, good for you, Boyd. You can play that well.
So I don't know. Other than that, there was nothing super memorable about him to me. And then the doctor guy, I just felt like it was just kind of random. Like I almost felt like you could have built even a little more on the one character you had instead of introducing another one-note character. So
I was a little surprised that they introduced like another bad guy, I guess.
I think they had to get the science aspect in there, kind of like explaining.
It didn't bother me.
Yeah, explaining the girl's iMovie that she made on her phone, which
well, that's a whole nother beast that we'll see later.
I can see
and,
see
like,
that.
What happened? Like, there's 10 other kids or whatever, and they only care about one.
Well, I think it's because her genes. Because honestly, ice powers is cool, this and that, but like to have an indestructible person, I think is the best thing you want. And plus, Logan's genes in the past, because they're healing genes, they've always been used for other mutants to do things. So I think it's just that it's James Howlett's genes.
They find Logan. There's his genes right there.
Well, but they already hint that he's dying inside, right? So I wonder if it's that those genes, because you look at when they take the genes, it's from Apocalypse, when he's like young and healthy, and that's fucking, when was it, the 70s? So that's 50 years ago, So that's where I took it as like, his genes, aren't gonna, why take these old like gross genes when they can have Laura's genes that are like prime and new and freshly born, right? So that's the way I took it. That's why I was like, okay, I understand what they're going for.
I also, just because I'm thinking about it now, this is kind of like sidetracking, but I think I'm the last person on this topic anyway. So the little like the fish guy who like just randomly was there and then disappears and he's like not in the forest at all.
Maybe you got killed.
The fish guy?
Yeah, I don't know.
He's like pulling out the serum. He's like, "Is that too much?"
He had like the pointy teeth and
he had like
eyes.
I think gills on his whatever.
Yeah.
Oh. I know. I just took it like died along the way or something.
He might have been captured earlier in the forest or something.
Okay, well, anyway, all of his random disappearance aside, because I was really excited. I wanted to know. Well, I was like, I wonder who this guy's based off. It's just like you can tell, like Bobby or whoever is the Frost powers or whatever, right? So you can like kind of see where the genes are coming from. Do you know who that's based off of?
No, there's probably some fucking fish X-Men character, but like not anyone that popular. Well, not X-Men character. I don't think there's anybody that has like. There's one character that could like adapt to survive and put his face in water and grow gills, but no, there's not much use for fish X-Men.
I don't know. I was excited to see what happened with him. He had all these like weird markings on his body and stuff.
Well, is there anyone else? Oh, do you want to?
I don't know. I didn't expect them to do much more.
I think you took to it more than us.
Yeah, I don't know. Like it was interesting that there was that one character that looked so different, but it was I don't know. I think it was just to show that there's like such a
maybe you shouldn't show like a really unique looking character and then have him randomly disappear. Because like you showed like a girl with brown hair pulling out the serum. She can look like every other girl with brown hair. You got this guy with like no hair and pointy teeth and weird markings on his skin. I noticed when he randomly doesn't show up in the woods.
I didn't. That's what I'll say.
Yeah.
Well, there's no one in the main cast I even think. I want to talk about the like third tier sort of villain, and like the twist that they don't really reveal that there's a fucking like clone Hugh Jackman, like there's a clone Logan. That took me for a loop because that scene.
I didn't expect that.
I was not expecting that at all, but it made complete sense because they're already talking about like these clones of Logan, right? So like that scene, I was so thrown off when Xavier's talking, and then like he looks
such
up.
an emotional moment.
Well, and at first I thought he was dreaming. Maybe I didn't. I was like, oh, maybe he's dreaming that he's worried Jackman's gonna kill him.
I thought it was a dream. Yeah.
Yeah, and then like. He kills him, and Laura's awake, and he's like, nothing's happening, and it's like, it's still going on, and Hugh Jackman shaved bald, and he has these, like, sideburns. I'm like, okay, something's gonna happen here, and then it's like, nope, it's just an evil Hugh Jackman, like, running around, and like, this is the thing that I think in other movies it could be cheesy. I didn't find it cheesy. Like, I thought it really worked of, like, how are we gonna take these two people out? Oh, let's just make, and that's why I think they do have that scientist, because he does explain it, right? Because he's like, we don't want to anymore grow them as children, because that doesn't work. We can't put the rage in, so that's why I think the Pierce, he couldn't say that. He's just a gun for hire. So I think that's why they did have the scientist guy to give a little like exposition to be like, oh, this is why there's a fucking Hugh Jackman with a black tank top.
I kind of thought that they should have gone with someone who looked similar but not like exactly the same, because I keep coming back to, well, Hugh Jackman's not technically dead. They just bring him back as X-25, and you know.
Well,
so, like,
I don't think he's gonna come back.
No,
so,
but like it's
the reason I. Like at first I was very iffy, but I think I was so captivated that I was like, okay, I'm gonna see where this takes it. And the reason I ended up liking it is because I think that's a perfect farewell to that character, is that the only thing that can kill him is himself. The only thing that can overcome his power is like literally a clone of himself. Because I was thinking like, okay, how is he gonna die? Like when it was a little slow point, I was like, okay, how is he gonna die? And I was thinking maybe he'll kill himself, and I think that would be a great ending, because that, you know, that's the same thing essentially. He's the only one powerful enough to take himself down. So when they have a clone of himself, like him killing himself, I thought it was perfect. It's
literally perfect, and it's metaphorically perfect, because Logan this whole time's been killing himself. And I see, that's where I disagree, because if it's supposed to be a clone and it doesn't look exactly like him, I would have been a little thrown off, and I've been like, why is there like this weird stunt double? And I think Hugh Jackman's been doing Wolverine enough that he has the facial expressions down, so like. It
did seem like a different guy.
That was my thing. Exactly. Like, it was Hugh Jackman, you could tell, but it felt not like Hugh Jackman. Where
Hugh Jackman without displaying emotion.
Yeah,
pure rage.
Lots of times when they do the double things in movies, I always find it doesn't really work. He's like, oh, okay, like I can tell this is you. It's not like when there's twins. I'm like, this is not twins. It's just like the other. But this felt like it did feel like clone. It felt like he was this like empty vessel who was just built to kill things, you know, and he wouldn't stop. And I love that. And before I forget, one of my favorite things is when Logan gets to Professor X, he just keeps whispering to him, saying like, it wasn't me, you know, like I love in that moment, that's all he cares about. He just doesn't want Professor X dying, thinking that he killed him. He's just telling me, it wasn't me, it wasn't me. And just like, that's why I love me, because those little things that you don't have to, but those little things is what like made the experience better for me. But like, I was really caught off guard, and like talking about Terminator, it's so funny, years ago, the last Terminator, like there's this big twist reveal in the trailer, like a certain main character was evil, and like they easily could have been like showing off an evil Hugh Jackman and made it like, bad, like Wolverine has to verse himself at some point in this movie, you know. But like I love with the kids twist, like just them being involved in this whole like camp, and that was not revealed at all or anything like that. It didn't leak. There was no like. I love that. That threw me for a complete loop, and I love the loop. And because I was worried, I was the same as you. Like I was on the move, I'm like, oof. A double Hugh Jackman. This could go poorly and be really cheesy.
This has been known to go poorly.
Yeah, but even the fight scenes when it's happening, like it felt natural. It was so cool. Like that's gonna be a Facebook profile picture or cover in my future. Just those two guys fighting, and I did like at the end he just kills him.
Travis is gonna edit himself to be fighting himself.
I'll be in the middle, like you know Chris Pratt in the Jurassic Park. Like, someone needs to do that. Please put Chris Pratt in the middle of the two Logans when those photos release. And then I did love the fight scene with Laura and X-24 because it was just full on like just brutality from him, and she's just like she's raged too, but she just seemed more skillful. So I just want to bring it because I loved that twist, and I didn't see it coming. Like not at all, and I didn't see it coming. But the whole movie is about clones, so I felt like at any when it happened, I'm like, why didn't I think of this? You know, like, or why didn't we even talk about this as a possibility? Like, there's 23 fucking clones in this movie, and we never thought, oh, they'll clone Hugh Jackman. You know.
You know, I thought going in this movie, like we knew he was gonna die, and it happened, and there was some predictable stuff here and there, but that. Came out of nowhere. Somehow it came out of nowhere.
When I first saw it happening, I was like, okay, when's he going to wake up? You know,
Well,
like,
yeah, it
when
was
do
a
you wake
weird
up?
scene.
Yeah.
Because, like, that whole thing, and I liked the actual scene with the family, and one of the little things, too, I like that the guy whose family gets murdered, that he rams the X-24, but then he still goes to shoot Logan, because he's kind of like, well, you brought this on us, so fuck
Yeah,
you.
exactly.
And that was, like, another little thing where, like, all the characters, even though it's this heightened sense of reality, they all felt really real to me, you know, and that was the biggest thing, so...
Mm-hmm.
What do we want to talk about next? Talk about twists. We talked about the kid. Well, we talked about the kids mostly. Was there anything we wanted to add upon those kids? The whole camp thing. I really liked it. Like
I think
said,
it's going to be the next movie to kind of get into more detail about them. It wasn't.
I wouldn't be surprised. Most of those kids are probably dead if there's another movie. I would think it's maybe a few of them, if not just her on her own. To be honest, like she could end up being like Logan. Even though he says, "Oh, don't be like me," she could end up being a loner and just kind of like. I already got that sense when they all leave her, right? And there's a sense like they leave as a group, a couple girls pat her on the back, and she's just kind of like looking at them all. And I just got the sense of like she's not
like
gonna be
an
one of
outcast,
them. Yeah,
yeah.
she's not gonna be.
She's
one
already
of them.
a lot more damaged than that.
Yeah, like she's crying physically, and like I know they had to move, but the main guy was just like, "Hey, we gotta go," and it felt almost like a dick move. So I think that's already set for like, yeah, she's already gonna be off on.
Well, I mean, yeah, the rest of them have just, like, I guess we don't know all of their backstory, but she already lost, like, her mother figure, her father figure, and her grandfather figure, like, all in one
It's
movie.
my father.
I don't think it's so much that. I think what I picked up anyway, it's more that she's killed all these people.
Yeah,
that too.
None
like
of the
all
other
the
kids,
shit she's had to go through to get there.
There was only that one
there's
other girl
layers
that
on it,
killed
yeah.
someone.
Yeah, like I'm sure they've killed a couple people, but not to the amount of. And that's different with them. Like I feel like them like killing Pierce in the ground is not as brutal as like stabbing someone to death or cutting their head physically.
Well, that
off.
one chick
It was-
like, exploded.
She literally, she's on a different level.
Yeah, that was nuts.
That was such a
I
sick
remember
scene.
you were
I
like,
love
I want
it.
to see
So
Fishbowl.
cool.
I was like, I want to see fucking Needle Girl. Or
When
whatever.
all the pine needles went in his face, I was like, "This is the worst way to die ever!" Like,
And then he exploded. It was like, whoa, 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 slow down.
It couldn't get any worse. Like that was the worst thing.
She
like,
was mad.
Yeah,
She was
like
mad.
it's like
Yeah.
it's like me being like buried alive, and now like second place is like death by pine needles and then exploding. Like I was great, and that's what I like. They made all the kids cool. Like that's why I would like that because it had like a Stranger Things vibe. I like the little like chubby kid who had the electricity powers. I love the
His
idea of the
little
fucking
Wolverine.
did the Wolverine action
at the end
figure.
there.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I asked. How did you guys feel about the comics being
I was
incorporated so
I was
much?
thinking about that. Yeah, from the trailers, I was like, ooh, this could be bad. But I actually ended up liking it. I think it's a cool way to... that was like their whole goal was to get to this place in the end, and then he finds out that it was just all bullshit.
Well, we don't know, right? Because we don't get to see if it is bullshit.
I kind of hope it is, honestly. If that's a real place,
Yeah.
I would be like, I wouldn't like that. I don't
Yeah.
think.
I don't think
Unless
I
they
think
did it really
So
well.
I think that
obviously.
hut is like
No, that was their meeting point. I thought because that was the meeting point because remember they said that thing was across the border. Eden, I thought didn't they say it was across the border? So they were. So this was like a place for them to meet up, and then all the group they were gonna go together.
Oh,
so.
okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I think that would be good to pick up. I don't want it to be a place either. If they
Yeah.
do X-23 movie, I'd like it to open with them going there and it just being nothing and that kind of crushing her spirits, you know? Because like she definitely has more heart, but like, yeah, just what do you think about the comics being incorporated?
I thought. I mean, I will agree that I definitely, when I heard about it, I was just kind of like, well, you know, it's kind of weird to make the comic books a part of this movie about the comic books. But I think the way that they played it off, that basically this one big event happened with the X-Men, and then they made the comic books about that, and, you know, so they kind of tied it in that the comic books aren't actually real, but it's based on a real event.
Well, I took it as like, if mutants or X-Men were around right now, I feel like that would happen. A big event, like let's say a terrorist attack, some fucking mutants come and save it. 5 years from now, we'd see a movie, we'd see a television show. Like we see that all the time and just stuff in general. Like there's fucking how.
Yeah, it happens like for all types of movies.
Yeah, like we just had
Based on
Sully
a true
last year.
story,
Yeah, it's like
sort of.
so. That was the thing I agree when we first. I liked it when I saw the trailer, but I was still like, oh, this could go either way. But in the movie, they used it well as far as him just always. And I like that point of him just like.
It was a bigger component, I thought.
Yeah,
Because
I thought it was gonna be a throwaway
joined
line.
some points of the plot. I thought it was just going to be like a little Easter egg sort of thing.
Yeah.
Well,
But then I guess it seems weird that they put that kind of Easter egg in
I
the
would like-
trailer in hindsight.
I
but
would like to know the coordinates. Type them into like Google Earth and see what's
it's right here
up.
where we're recording.
yeah, come to Eden. But no, I liked that.
We don't have much room.
Yeah, I like that her and the kids, because of these Legend of comic books, kind of looked at him as this hero. And my other favorite scene in the movie was the last scene when Laura finds that bullet and she kind of knows that he's going to kill himself, or like is planning to. Like they have that conversation.
Yeah.
And I love that he's just like, I'm not what you think I am. Like there's all this stuff like this is me. Like that's when he has a conversation about killing and living with it.
Yeah.
Like, and that's why even the doll, like they all have this idea of him in their head, and really in his mind he sees that idea and he's like kind of like disgusted by it because he knows he's not that good person, or he maybe is, but he doesn't feel that way to the core, like because he's killed or made so many mistakes. So I agree. I did not think it was. I thought it would literally be, oh, you're an X-Men fan, that's bullshit. Throw like a little wink to the fans, but it was in like several key scenes. So I was surprised too.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought they did it really well. I was very surprised. As with you guys, I was very surprised with how much they used it. And yeah, one thing that took me by surprise was the fact like how they used the coordinates and that they actually incorporated into that. So
Yeah,
that took me by surprise. I feel like they didn't need to do that. I guess.
You think it's gonna be
I didn't think
Xavier
it
school?
took away from it.
I think it'll be nothing.
I guess they're going into Canada, so maybe there's a Canadian school for.
Yeah, maybe
Canadian school for
Professor Conlucker.
Lumberjack.
Yeah. I don't know what the. I took it as maybe there could be a safe haven there for mutants, but I don't think like a school if there is. I think it's just that they picked that because in the comic book that was a corner that everyone could remember maybe or see. So I don't know if there is a safe whatever. I was gonna say one thing I'll talk about until we get to if there's any negatives was like, did we want to talk about any more of how did you feel this? Obviously, I think how did you feel with the rated R aspect of it? I felt like after seeing it, it all made sense, but like I felt like it did flow, and lots of people have said like, "Oh, it's a Wolverine movie I really wanted," and it did have that vibe of the action scenes really felt different and felt brutal, and it did not feel like an X-Men movie where it's like in Deadpool, there's these rated R bloody scenes, but those were fun and they're kind of high octane. Where this just felt down and brutal, like arms cutting off, like it felt like Jason Voorhees out there. So I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on the rated R. I don't know, usage.
I think it felt like just the tone of the movie. It fit perfectly. I think it's like with how serious they wanted the movie to be and how like emotional. I feel like if they didn't have those rated R scenes, it would have just took away from it a little bit. Like it just wouldn't have felt as real.
You wouldn't have seen like a 12-year-old girl get shot through the heart with a harpoon.
Yeah, exactly. You know?
Not often.
No.
Yeah,
I respect
things like that, and yeah.
All this stuff happens, and then they can't even go to watch it in theaters because it's rated R.
What? Well, Canada is.
They'll let her go.
They'll
like, you know what? You're a star in this movie. We'll let you go on.
Oh yeah, she's probably seen it. You know. Dylan, what did you think?
I think it was perfect because we've seen Hugh Jackman with this character for 17 years, like you said, and we've never seen like. It's hard to think after that many years and that many movies. How can we have like new fight scenes?
Yeah,
and this is a good way to do it. Just ramp up the rating and just fuck people up and rip heads off and rip them to shreds and put his claws through every imaginable spot of the human body. So I thought they did it phenomenally, and I was super excited to see it because I feel like rated R movies have gone away for a while. Like I don't know, at least. Like definitely,
I think
if they are rated R, they're more in that like just like overly gory and just sort of in that kind of high octane comedic sort of way that Deadpool is,
or just like huge spurts of blood or something.
Yeah,
this
exactly.
Is just like really graphic.
Just go
scenes.
over the top because that's like the feel they're going for. There aren't like the rated R movies like this one.
And I think even like Deadpool, you're mentioning, I didn't think about it, but there's not like a ton of scenes that I can think of off the top of my head. They're like. This would not be in a rated R movie. Like, you could see there's scenes that, like, just classic fight scenes that don't necessarily need to have that R-rated moment. Yeah, and there is a few. Yeah. But
I think the R rating is more just for, like, the sex and the comedy.
Yeah, that was kind of for the whole package. But this definitely felt like they went ham with that rated R rating.
Well, and
no restrictions.
And they swear, too, and, like, some people are like, oh, is it going to be overdone? I did think it was. Like, Wolverine, his first word in this movie is fuck. But, like, it feels warranted for both characters. Like, Xavier actually swears a lot, which I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about, but it feels because he's just so down and out that, like, it just seems like he's not giving up, but he's just so frustrated. And Logan feels like he's just giving up. So, like, that's why, to me, like, all the F-bombs, all this shit, everything, like, when he just beats the shit out of his car, like, that scene, like, felt natural to me. Like, some people laughed in our theater, which I understood, but, like, I wasn't laughing.
I was very upset when people were laughing.
Yeah, like, I don't think that's
not the emotion we're feeling right now.
This is not the point of the scene of him, like, beating his car. She wasn't, like, laughing. It was, like, he's so frustrated, and he's just yelling, like, fuck, shit, blah. And I got it, why some people laugh, but, like, I thought it was used very well. Jessica, what R rating?
So in the very first fight scene, you see him, like...
Are you doing acting? What are you doing?
This is what he does.
He's becoming Wolverine.
Okay.
Every way. Any possible way you can imagine him moving his arm, he does it.
For our podcast listeners, Dylan has transformed into Logan.
Well, what can I say? I'm X64. So.
You're not wrong.
I have 64 blades. You don't want to know where they all are.
Wow.
I really don't.
You see that guy that had all the pie in his face? That's where all the blades.
That was me. Yeah.
All of your facial hair is actually adamantium blades.
Don't get too close.
They do say facial hair is like, I don't know, as strong as like a fiber wire or something.
They're
like
lying.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Those were a lot of razors, I'm sure.
Wow.
I guess not, because he had that big beard.
The
What'd you think of the R rating?
Yeah, what do you think of the R rating? How was it used?
So back to that very first scene. There's the one scene where he like sticks his claws through a guy's head and you like see them come out the top.
Mm-hmm.
And like when that first happened, I was just like, yeah, it was like fucking prime. I was like, this is sweet. I'm so stoked. And there's one scene where he like goes in and you can like see the blades in the guy's mouth.
Oh yeah,
And
popping out.
yeah, and I was just like, that's awesome. And then it happened again. It goes into the guy's head and comes out the other head. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, but like every angle.
Yeah, it was always different angles. That's what I
Did you not bring your
appreciated.
protractor? I had mine. I was like up on the screen. People were like, "Get the fuck off the stage, dude!" I'm like,
holding it up to your eye. So yeah, I kind of just felt that it got old as like, you know, okay,
Fair
like,
enough.
we've seen the claws go through the head. That, like, I was really stoked with like the one scene after he fights X-24 when his stomach's all fucking ripped up to shreds and he like goes to the doctor. I was like, yeah, that looks really sweet. And then there was also the one scene that like we had people in our theater that were just like, yeah, when he like does the dive and like stabs into the guy. And it's just like, that homage to like the original kind of.
Well, see, I think that's the reason I liked it is because we've never gone Radar Wolverine, so I think that's why like every angle he got could stab someone from, I want it because like this is the only time we're getting this with Hugh Jackman.
True.
It's been all these movies of him like kind of push back, be like, oh, he can stab people, but no blood, and you can only see it go in the body, and that's it. Like it was had lots of restrictions. So
you have an R rating and you just stab people in the head over and over again.
But that's
well,
his.
like, there
That's
could
his.
have been more.
Jason
What are you gonna
Voorhees.
he's been known.
Yeah, Jason Voorhees just
Yeah.
cuts people in half, and the thing is to me that like there wasn't that many action scenes in this movie. So there's like the limo scene, there's like the middle scene where they abduct Laura, and then there's the two last fights. That's there's only like 4
But you have
action
like
scenes.
6 unbreakable blades on your hands, and I feel like you could do more than just stab a guy in the head from different angles.
But I think that's-
Sometimes he slices.
But I think that's what they did sometimes for PG-13 because like, oh, we gotta find a way around this. Where I think they took the right route because this is what people wanted to see. They just want to see him hacking body pieces, and that's why I like that.
People.
Not only we got head, but we had him like literally
You
just.
got head
He just
wounds?
dismembered.
I don't know. I was lucky. No,
Cutting hands off.
So like he's cutting hands off. There's literally just like the claws through the arm. Like I thought they did do different things. Like he just stabs he ripped someone's person in the knee, and Laura was doing shit with her foot, and like.
Yeah, see, Laura did a bunch of different stuff, like all her flips.
But her fighting style is different. I don't expect Hugh Jackman to be flipping at
but
the
like,
age of
I don't know, like,
His old
800.
like stick your claws in someone's chest and like fucking rip out. Like, you know, you could do so
This
much
is an
cool
alien.
shit.
This guy.
Yeah, like I think he just
I
his
don't know,
idea is just to kill people, right?
I
Like
don't know,
quickly.
Stabbing people in the head over and over, it just lost interest from me. Like, it was really cool in the beginning. In the beginning, I was super stoked. I was like, yeah, this is like what I'm here for. And then partway through, I was like, we've seen it. Like, we've seen the head stabbing. You know, you got 2 hours. After an hour, I was done with the head stabbing. New trick.
Yeah.
I can see where you're coming from, but I have to disagree with that. I feel like it's the
yeah,
most efficient way for him to kill someone,
Yeah.
See,
and I feel like
that's where
that's like more realistic than him going up to someone and just like ripping them to pieces
Well, that's
before
why I
going
can
on to
say-
the next person.
Yeah, like I felt like it was a subtle. That's why I think if that would have happened, I would have felt like, man, they're really trying for the rated R. Where this felt like it was deserved a rated R, and they did just enough.
Just,
where it wasn't Jason
Yeah.
Voorhees. It wasn't him like putting a girl in a sleeping bag, tying it up, and like throwing it against the ground. You know, like that's the thing. I think they didn't overglor.
And this is where I go back to, like, I
can.
can understand why you guys give it a good rating, but for me, it just wasn't my movie.
Yeah.
And that's where I can say that I do understand, like, for you guys, you know that's Wolverine style, you've watched all the movies and read the comic books, but I mean, like, I didn't like the Wolverine. Like, I stopped, there's the Wolverine movies I haven't watched, so for me, I was just going in, because this is our job, podcast 24/7, obviously. So I can understand why you guys liked it, but for me personally, I got bored of it.
All right.
Well,
Fair
speaking
enough,
of things we didn't like, because I don't think there's
Are you
anything
going to talk
else.
about that video?
Well, I was gonna say, let's bring up any negatives now because we talked about radar, talked about the cast, talked about ending, everything. Like, is there any big positive things you want to show? I think it might come up again, but anything big that I may have missed?
I don't know, for me, like, the biggest thing that hit me emotionally was just, like, the little interactions, as mentioned earlier, just, like, between Patrick Stewart and Hugh Jackman. Just, like, you could see how they were, like, so frustrated with each other at times.
Oh, yeah.
But there was, like, that bit of frustration, but they put up with each other because they knew they were both so close to death, and they didn't want to end being frustrated. So like a lot of times Patrick Stewart, like you saw, like he's straight upset, he's disappointed in Logan.
Yeah, that hurt me to the
He still
core when he
like
said that.
gives so much love to him. You see,
He's still rooting for him.
Yeah, you see the whole time that like he just loves him so much all the way to the end, and it just felt like such a real relationship, and just Hugh Jackman, just like the
Is there a negative tied to this, or you?
No, I
did say
we
I did say throw your last positives before.
I didn't hear that.
And just like
I was like,
Waiting for it.
it's a big build up.
Yeah.
It's like the movie or something.
and just like the reactions to the deaths, I guess. Like Hugh Jackman's reaction to Professor X's death, and then Laura's reaction.
Laura
to Hugh
fucking
Jackman's.
kills it when he dies. It's
Oh
so
my gosh.
good.
I thought for sure they were gonna do the poster hand holding.
Those are what
they buried. Not like grabbing the wrist, but I thought she was actually gonna like go into his hand.
That and then positive when Xavier died and she held his hands and he like fucking ripped it away.
Oh my goodness.
So good. He's such a piece of shit in this movie. I love it because that's like what he is. And like even that first interaction he does have with Xavier. At first I felt like they weren't getting along at all because he's just kind of really mean to him about like taking his pills and everything like that, and him asking. Oh no, I guess we went over. I forgot. We already went over the Xavier killing people. Negatives, Jessica. I know which one you want to shout, and this is it's one that I'll agree with. I didn't take any points down. But this was the only time in the movie where it did take me out. And I was like, wait a second, what's happening here? Like that was the only point for like 10 seconds, and I'm like, okay, it went away, but.
That fucking video, it was like...
It didn't make sense, actually.
It made zero sense. Like an iPhone video, it looks like it's supposed to be filmed on an iPhone or Android, whatever, and then, but it's not a flowing video. Like, she took it on a computer and edited it and then uploaded it onto your phone. But then there's also videos that make no sense how it would have been recorded, because, like, there's one that's being recorded by a security guard that gets attacked by one of the kids. So... how did she get all this footage? Why is there footage of, like, their security cameras and body cams and then her own personal one?
Well, there's two things. One, I will agree with you on, but here's the thing. So the first thing is, if you can suspend your disbelief, imagine, so at one point, remember Logan in the hotel, he looks at the security guards and they have cameras. So I took it as that she's gotten footage from all these places. Now, hang on. The way she was filming doesn't make sense. But there's realistically, and it sounds dumb, there's realistically a part of her where she could have got all these clips and decided to make her own short film. Now, that is stupid.
She doesn't have a lot of free time.
Yeah, that is stupid. I don't understand why she made her own short film. On your iPhone, I can do that. I can make, like, I've done that a couple times. You take a couple tracks and you take that. So she could
So she, like, uploaded all this stuff onto her phone and then used her video editor.
I'm saying it is very, very stupid, but she could plausibly do it.
And also, I would like to ask, when you plug in your phone and it doesn't magically turn on to the video exactly where you left it.
To preferences, Xavier and Logan were watching it. It dies, and then when he charges it, it doesn't come with a loading screen. It comes up just with the pause of like Laura.
The other thing with that scene is when she texts him to like come get him. She's like, "They're here."
No,
okay, first of all,
no. She first said we need to hurry, and then he says I'm on my way, and then
she is texting, "They're here."
Yeah.
With perfect punctuation, she throws a period in there. I have no fucking idea why she would do that. That period could have been the send button, and that could have saved your damn life.
Well, she had time to hide it. She could have hit send in her time that she took to hide her phone.
Well, maybe I took it as like she just saw them. They're kicking down the door. She's doing this, and then right when she goes to hit send, they like hit her.
But her phone was hidden.
She put it in the hiding spot.
Yeah, it was in the hiding spot.
Maybe she just thought. Haven't we all done that, folks? Where we thought we hit send.
Okay, no,
I feel like for her sending send is less important than them being able to recover the phone because of that video, which would convince Logan to actually help Laura.
Well, and not only does it convince, like, I'm not defending, I 100% agree that was the only dumb thing. It's not done enough for me to take down points, because for me that's just
are we back to this video? Because that video...
We are.
We're still on the video.
Well, no, we're still on the video. To me, it was just like, that's suspending disbelief. Yeah. Like, that happens in movies all time. That's the classic, like, this was dumb. But, like, I do think it was dumb, but I would agree, because that's the video is important, because if he didn't get those files, he wouldn't have known that it's his daughter / clone. I do agree it's dumb. I'm just saying that was the purpose. She's
like in the closet with her phone, like recording herself, and then she's like, "Look at this," and she like goes in the hallway with her phone, and there's like security watching
in the
around.
shots of Dr. Rice, she's just like, Filling this conversation with someone.
Who's to say that she didn't have like a subtle camera on her body that she then put onto her phone?
Or what if she had one of the same cameras that they had, right? All the security guys had that, so she could have that.
She didn't necessarily use her phone
there
to
are
film.
still scenes that she wouldn't have had. Like, there's one where they're working on X-23 where it's a camera in the roof. And
But
there's
that's what I'm saying. She
and
put
there's
that on
Can we all
use-
agree that it was dumb?
She put that on a USB. This is what the
Move on.
GeekVerse is.
Yeah.
She went to that security camera, got it, put on USB, and like I'm adding this to my iMovie, or I think it was.
I'm
a
sorry.
Sony phone.
And
Says, I want to
I'll
move
tell you
on.
what. Hold on.
For some
One last
fucking
thing.
reason they want to talk about this movie.
year-
I agree it was
Hold
dumb.
on.
I know
Dylan,
all
let
of
me
you thought it
finish
was
here.
dumb.
The year is 2029.
We don't know what
2029.
technology-
You would think phones would have some sort of good video editing software at that point. 12 years in the future, phones
That's
can
true.
edit videos.
That's
all right,
true.
it's 2029, folks.
Yeah.
That's all we need.
What are some
I
other
wish you would have
negatives?
spent that camera time to show me what the next Elder Scrolls game has in store. I don't know.
Wow, that was like.
Well,
severe
dude, we
like
have
that.
different priorities. I'll tell you that.
All right, next topic.
Do we have any other big negatives to shout out? Because I know, like, I honestly don't, like, I agree that for me that was the only thing that took me out for 10 seconds, but I'm like, it's a movie, it went on, I was like, okay, she could plausibly make this, I guess, but other than that, like, I didn't have, like, I agree that the villains were a little one-dimensional, but I think it worked, like, I didn't have anything, like, it ended
I think it was
perfectly.
just Dr. Rice.
Okay, yeah, Dr.
Because
Rice,
I think the
can
other
see.
guy was like sort of one-dimensional, but it was
It
in
worked.
a good way, I guess.
Yeah.
But I didn't really like Dr. Rice.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, and see, I liked him for what he was there because he had to be like
Yeah.
exposition. Like this
Yeah.
is where all the mutants went, right? So
Okay, so you guys might. I just want to get your opinion on. Okay, and let me finish before you interrupt because I do have a comment based on when he has his seizures and like everyone freezes and the whole camera's all shaky and then Logan's shaky at the same time. But then I just want to throw out, there's one scene, everyone around is shaking. Everybody is shaking, except there's one girl who's a server, and she's got a tray, and she's just standing there. And Logan, like, really blatantly, like, falls into the tray and knocks everything over. But, like, everyone around is, like, shaking and got their head down, and she's just standing there.
maybe she's mutant. I don't know. It was
But
just a
anyway.
set of him knocking over that thing. But
I
that's
just want to
yeah.
get your guys' opinion.
I thought there was a few people who were just like sitting there. Like I think
Yeah.
there were some people who were just like on the.
I just
Well,
wanted to bring
I
that
feel
up.
like
I really just care
people
more about your opinion on the whole shaky
were-
camera thing.
I liked it because it felt very claustrophobic. And like you know, when he's in the
Yeah.
casino, it felt like he was in this closed-in space. And I like that they made sure that Laura could also move because obviously because their healing factor, they can put, like kind of press against it. So I like because I was worried about that. Like, oh, if she's just frozen, this makes no sense. So I just felt it was really claustrophobic, and I like that they only did it twice. They did it at the very beginning to set it up, and then they did it again. I think if it would have happened a few more times, it would have been too much because those scenes were very long. But I like that it was only twice, and I like the actual.
That second one, like in the hotel room, was a mini like Quicksilver thing. Where
Yeah,
he
I was-
spasmed
Yeah,
off.
and then everybody
Sitting there.
and it like yeah.
It was like the opposite. Instead of him going really fast, he's just going really slow.
Yeah, and I like that one guy who's like eyes slowly move.
Yeah,
like
that's
Logan.
fine.
And I did like seeing him
He's just like,
killing
"I'm so
everybody.
fucking
Yeah,
dead."
I liked seeing him killing everyone in slow motion. I did
Yeah.
like that.
I like
That
how
was
like
really cool.
after it, there was still that one guy alive, and X-23 just like fucked him up anyway.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just a quick.
Jessica, I think there was a few people who weren't like knocked over, and I just took it as like whatever his seizures are, it doesn't necessarily just have the same effect on everyone because
Yeah.
clearly it killed people in
Different-
another world,
Yeah,
and in
it
this one
affects
it
people
made
different.
some people like pass out, and it just like made some people freeze, which is something he can do,
Yeah.
right? I took it as like of all the powers he has, it kind of just like essentially gave them a random effect from the pool of
Yeah.
effect, like
A
powers he
random
has.
effect.
Yeah, and it's kind of like how
Roll a
video-
d20.
To
Yeah.
video game it up, yeah.
Like,
Like that's how I took it.
different people react to it differently. Like,
Uh-huh.
because you see those scenes in the other X-Men movie where Xavier literally just makes everyone freeze.
Yeah.
And I feel like it has that effect on most people.
Yeah.
And then there are people who are like a little bit stronger, maybe mentally or physically, and they're trying to
Yeah.
fight against it, such as the soldiers.
To me, this
And
is like the
then-
broken version of that,
Yeah.
where usually he would be freezing everybody, but this is like it's kind of like has a chip in it.
Yeah,
you know? So it's like
exactly.
he doesn't.
I also picture that he's just like reading like 1,000 people's minds at once, which is just
Yeah.
going like it's crazy,
Mhm.
craziness.
Yeah, and I was. It's a positive, but I did like the second Laura got there. That was the first time you saw him with like life or a smile or anything. Like the whole time he was like dour, and I did really like the scene.
I
where-
thought he played the grandpa role really.
Yeah, and I did
Oh,
really
yeah.
like the scene where Logan had to take him to the washroom. That was great.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Mhm.
Any other negatives?
Okay, actually, one thing that at first, for the first like 5 seconds of that scene, I didn't know it was Logan and and Professor X, I thought it was just like two random people. I was like, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah, and it was
Oh,
like,
shit, I'm kind of
it was really funny because like the pants were down and the legs were facing each other.
And I was like, is this like some random bathroom sex scene going on? Like, what's going on here?
Weird
It
transition.
has happened in an X-Men movie before. So.
Well, yeah, I mean,
it is what it is.
dark days.
Yeah, Jessica, were you gonna show another thing?
How long? This is like all happening within like a couple days, right?
I think
Not necessarily because the kids say like, oh, you've been asleep for 2 days, so he was.
Yeah,
No,
he was
sorry,
sleeping
no, like
the whole thing.
The whole thing
so
probably took
what the
place
part that
in
I'm
a
thinking of
week.
I think a
specifically
week, yeah.
is they like
I would say about a
they
week.
burn the white guy, like his face gets all burnt and
Calvin,
mangled,
yeah.
and then
Yeah.
the next scene he's almost healed. He's only got like 2 or 3 patches. Is he like
Vaseline can do wonders, Jessica.
Okay, so this is just he doesn't have magical healing powers. They
I
just
don't think
slathered
so.
They
Vaseline
could
on his
have
face.
given him that green serum.
True,
Oh.
yeah, to help
Wait,
with the
wasn't he dead? I thought he was dead.
No, she's
He
talking
died
about
at
the
the
first time she...
When he was
she's talking-
exposed to the light.
Yeah,
Oh,
when
I
they're
see,
like,
yeah.
oh, like when
This
he
is-
says that cheeky line about like, oh, so everything's revealed in the light or something like that, he whips the towel.
I took it as like the I Am Legend thing, where like that fucking hurts, but you know I'm still okay.
Well, no, it's just there was the next scene. He like didn't have all the scarring and
It was
stuff.
more bruised than like
Yeah.
it was just like
Yeah.
a purple mark. But
So,
I
just-
think that's a good call, the green serum.
Yeah. I just didn't know if like his character had powers or something because
Yeah.
I'm not
Just
as,
detection
Mm.
powers.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
I feel like-
intelligence.
I don't know.
Ah yes.
High intelligence, they said.
He probably has superhuman strength too, because who fucking
Yeah.
doesn't?
I feel like with that character, it just like they obviously didn't explain it much, but I feel like him, like the damage he takes from sunlight, it just makes sense to me in my head that he would also heal from it quickly. In a way, like it does, like
I go either way on it.
Yeah. Oh. it just doesn't. For me, it's not a point. Something that takes me out. It just like makes sense that, like,
Yeah.
it's not like a permanent effect. It's just kind of like he melts and then he grows back.
And for folks that don't know, that character is an X-Men Apocalypse, but played by a different actor. So once again, X-Men continuity never making any sense.
He isn't really.
Still
He
good
is not the
movies,
same.
you know?
It's not the same actor.
No, they
it's
don't
a
need
different.
continuity.
Is he albino?
They don't
What?
need
Yeah,
continuity.
and he's in the dark and everything. There's a scene with him and Psylocke. Yeah, I'll point
I
out
don't
to you.
remember
Oh
that
shit!
either.
I totally think I know
Yeah,
what you're
Calvin
talking
is like,
about.
oh, Caliban. So
I
like,
don't think I want to watch the movie again, but I mean, I believe you.
X-Men continuity
Yeah.
always.
I'll just take the easy route and just believe you on this.
I will say, like, I was saving this like
Easy
on
route.
that point about the continuity, and that's always a problem with X-Men. But I will say this on the point before I forget it. Between Deadpool and this, I think I'm officially on the bandwagon of I actually don't want X-Men to go back to Marvel or Disney because I've always been like, oh, I want them to be back together and do that. But like with that, we wouldn't have got Deadpool, and I don't think we would have got this at all, like this type of movie. Like maybe on Netflix, but like that's what this did feel like at times, like the Netflix Marvel shows. Like that's one thing. After this, I was like, yeah, I'm actually fine with that never happening or happening way down the line. So they keep making these unique movies. Like I like that. Hopefully, they're gonna corner the market of rated R movies. You know, because I think if this is successful, I do think we'll get an X-23 movie, or she'll be incorporated somewhere.
Yeah.
down
Yeah, well,
and I like that. That's something DC's not going to do. It's something Marvel's not going to do. So why not have this little pocket to yourself? Like, hey, we're making the cool adult superhero movies. You know, which
Right.
I think I don't say. Some people say that Civil War's like a fan movie, and DC's not like. I think they are adult movies, but there's a contingency of people that just don't feel they're
I
grown
think
up
that
enough.
there's like a combination, right? Because you can watch Civil War and just like love the action in it and stuff like that, but then you can also watch it and see like
The
you know,
characters.
these storylines have a lot of depth to them, and they've been
Yeah.
building up over multiple movies. So there's,
Yeah.
it's two sides. What I was gonna say though with that, I was thinking about this earlier actually. Like the first X-Men movie, I feel like they kind of just introduced a shit ton of characters,
Oh, yeah.
and it didn't seem that weird at the time. I haven't watched them in a while, so I have to say that. But like obviously we talked about like BVS and stuff. Like they just introduced like 500 characters at once, and it's just shitty. So I don't know. I like the idea better. I think it's cool if they just do all these solo movies and then bring them together later, just like the Marvel
Yeah.
movies. Even though they have shown that the X-Men, like I like the first 3 X-Men, like the originals, even though they just kind of threw all the characters in at once. But
Yeah.
Oh, it worked.
I think
Yeah.
the difference is I think people like.
but I feel like in hindsight, like those movies, I thought they were good, but like
Probably
The
not.
like comic book movies are on like another level.
They're on a
right
new
now.
level now.
X2 is still top of the line.
X3, man.
I want
Underrated.
X3 is not good. I watched them all last week
I
to prepare
love
for this. So this is
X3.
like the Logan death.
I
remake
haven't seen
more.
it in a few years since I started critiquing movies, but I love that movie.
I think the difference. I
I'm
think
not gonna watch it again. It's like the Star Wars prequels. I'm just not gonna watch it. I'm gonna keep that beautiful memory I have in my head.
Unfortunately, that didn't happen with the Star Wars prequels.
Well, it was weird.
check out our commentaries. But I think the difference is even if the characters aren't that good, they're not introduced, through an email. So they got that going.
Well, I
for
mean,
them.
all the kids
True.
in this movie were introduced through an email. kind of.
True, but then we got
A
to see him
vlog?
right after, too,
A
right?
vlog?
Where with BVS, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
you gotta wait 2 more years before you see
Yeah.
Aquaman, swim around.
Yeah.
Back on point. Is there any negatives, or should we start rounding this down? 'Cause this is what happens, folks. It's strange. We're only at like an hour 15 on reviews where we generally like the movie. It's pretty quick and tight, like
Quick and tight.
when we've done the BVS and Suicide Squad, it's like this long fucking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It goes quick because I point something out, you guys just like shut me down right away.
Well,
No.
But honestly, like you've pointed.
I'm not gonna lie to myself.
Yeah.
If I think I liked this part that you didn't like, I'm gonna say it.
I
Yeah,
think the
it's true.
only big
Keep it-
majority
keep it
one you
real.
put out
The
was
fans
like
want to see what's
was-
in my heart.
was the
That's why
X-23
they're here.
one. Other than that, like, I feel like they're more like like smaller things, but that's the only like huge thing. And that's what I was gonna say. Is there any other huge thing? Or is there any other
Yeah, there's
last call
points
for
where, like, that was
negatives?
just awkward cut, but like nothing like huge.
Yeah. Last call for negatives.
Last call. Let's
hear
it. I want you to keep going.
Say it's not a negative.
I don't know. One thing that I know that you guys all disagree with, I didn't think that it was all super fast paced. I just felt like
I don't think it was
Fast-paced?
fast paced. No,
Or,
I
like,
think
you,
I was
like,
well
action
paced.
and I didn't think it was.
Oh,
well-paced.
because even that part in the middle. Where
I was ready to hunker down for a 2.5 hour movie. I think.
I think it is. Oh, I thought you mean while you're watching it. I was like, while I was watching this, I was ready for an 8-hour movie. I was like, don't stop,
Right.
keep going,
Just keep going.
Yeah, keep going.
2.5 hours was a long time for me. Like,
I'll
Yeah.
sit in this theater.
usually
for
I
24
cannot
hours.
keep my attention for.
Oh
two
yeah,
films.
no, yeah. See, I thought it was well paced because it was like right when you like didn't get an action scene, it came up, and then right when you did, it was good pacing to throw in little stuff, and even the family stuff in the middle for me could have been really boring or dragged, but they were there for quite a while, and it set up good stuff that I was like, oh, this really.
See, I
paid
guess
off.
so. Part of it probably is because that I don't necessarily like X-23. So the
Mhm.
fact that she's a main
Yeah.
character,
There's a lot of
it's-
time spent with her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
totally.
so I
That'll do
mean,
it.
like I've said it before. I can understand the love. It's-
Yeah.
I don't.
I mean, for like the same goes for me. Like I can understand what you didn't like about it, but I completely disagree.
You're just
with you,
wrong.
so.
I can't.
Yeah.
You're wrong.
This is what Tyler's
Wrong.
saying.
You know, I gotta defend myself because
No,
we're
yeah,
supposed
you
to
do.
be the Marvel
Yeah.
fanboy podcast.
It's
Stuck in
true.
Marvel's dick.
Wow.
Yikes.
Fanboy,
Well,
not fangirl.
Oh,
so
yikes.
I'm allowed to hate on.
Wow,
Yeah, exactly.
Tyler. Sexism.
Well
Sure.
then.
thanks,
Sure.
thanks, Dylan. I appreciate your support.
Thanks.
One thing I wanted to say, we were talking about earlier,
Say it.
not a negative. I'll just throw it there, but like I really like how.
Okay, if you have a
He's
negative.
sitting on eggs.
We were
Oh,
talking-
I like this movie.
Well, where's that one? Is?
Yeah.
It just got to
These are our last thoughts.
Oh,
and
look
then
at-
we'll get into our overall.
Just like with X-Men, we were talking about timelines. I really like how they don't necessarily. I'm not necessarily. I really like how they don't have a.
Where are you going with this?
I'm going with. Here's where I'm going.
Do you like
right?
it's kind of solo
I
on its own
think-
and doesn't have to tie into a bunch of stuff?
I think it's okay that they don't have a consistent timeline.
Me too.
That's what I'm getting to.
Because it gave us Logan.
Yeah.
I thought you said this was a positive.
Exactly.
Is
I mean,
like
it
you
is,
can
it's-
just
Yeah,
timeline?
like is it okay?
What I was
we were
saying,
talking
at
about
the end
it
of the day,
in a
if
negative.
it's a good movie,
fashion.
it's a good movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Like, at the end of the day, are we going to see all those X-Men get killed by Xavier? No. But, like...
If Justice League's good, am I going to care that BBS
you know,
was shit?
flashback.
Probably not.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'll just let it
Yeah,
slide.
But it's
I'm
like-
gonna let that one go. I don't know if I'll ever let that one go.
I'm not too invested in that, so you know.
Yeah, like I feel like it was brought up when we were talking about negatives, and I feel like with a lot of series, messed up timelines can really make it a lot worse. But I feel like with X-Men and just like comic books and how in the comic books there's so many different timelines, it's just like I like having more of like these shorter films. Like they're not as obligated to make these big plots. Because
That's
I
true.
feel like there's so much more to go wrong there.
They didn't have to say anything
It-
up for
yeah,
like, the
there's
big crossover.
yeah, exactly, and like it's hard to get as emotionally invested. Which for me, like when I'm going to a movie, like what determines a really good movie is how emotionally invested I get with the movie and the characters. And I like how with like if they're not worried about timelines, they can just make these short, like not necessarily
Yeah.
shorter, but like these more focused films.
Kind of one-off. I still feel that same way with
And yeah, like
Deadpool.
one-offs.
Deadpool, you know, there's going to be a sequel, but there was like, that could end, you'd never have another movie, and you still feel like it's
Yeah.
all closed up,
I
right?
feel like with Deadpool 1 and 2, there could be no continuity.
Exactly.
They could just be two fun films.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I like that.
Overall score, Jessica, we'll start with you. We'll work our way up, because I think you'll be the lowest.
I'm sure you'll be the highest. So, I'd probably say 7.
Okay.
A clean 7.
Clean
Okay.
7. It was not, driving home, Matt's like, when this is on the Android box, like, definitely watching it again.
Oh, I'm going to watch this movie.
Shout out
so
to Android
many
box.
times.
Yeah, and I was just like,
Sponsor
when
us,
this is
please.
Android box, I'm gonna have a great nap.
Oh,
You know?
shit!
Wow. You know what?
Nice
I'll
try,
take the 7.
John
though. I'll
Goldman.
take the 7.
What's that? Director
take the
name?
7.
James Mangold.
Nice try, James.
You know what? For as
to
someone
the drawing
who
board.
didn't like you said you didn't enjoy as much as we did, a 7, like I'll take it. I'll take it. You know?
It
I'll
wasn't.
take it.
You know, like I said, I can understand why it's a great movie.
Mhm.
It's just not for me.
Taylor gave Assassin's
But
Creed
it's still a
7.
7.
You know?
Really.
I think.
I
Right?
gave Assassin's
Something
Creed
like
not an awful score either, which I
I
regret
give it
now.
a quick 3.
I mean,
Give it
all
2.5.
I gave it the score that I gave it at that score, and I'll stick with it. But I don't feel that way.
You
anymore.
gotta.
You know, that's the thing.
You know?
Maybe give it a couple days. Maybe it'll sink in. Maybe I'll change my opinion of it.
Maybe
But
you
like walking out of the theater right now,
I think I'm seeing this movie again this weekend. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
gonna see it as
That's
much as possible.
interesting.
I probably won't see
I
it in
feel like-
theaters again, but I will definitely.
Android
That's
I mean, it hits
interesting
Netflix.
because
Hey.
I feel like we're gonna have very
So-
similar scores, and like we
What do you
both
have to
loved
say?
it, obviously.
Yeah.
But for me, I feel like I'm not gonna watch it for a while because it'll take away from that sort of how emotional it is. Just like watching it
Yeah.
over and over, it kind of takes away the more you see it.
For me,
And
I just
How do
want
we
to
know
see it
you
on
just
the-
don't want to cry?
I just want to see it on the big screen as much as
I had a
possible.
really good cry, and I'm happy with that. We take this.
Well, speaking of scores, Mr. Muss, what are
Mhm.
you giving this?
Let's see.
64.
Let's bring it a quick.
6.4.
out of 65,
Oh wow, that's. No, I'm not gonna do that. Not
that's
for
a
the
high
fans.
score.
You do it. Taylor's scoring.
Divided by 2.
I don't like
Plus
Taylor's
3.
scoring method. I think it's fraudulent because it just makes no sense
No.
whatsoever.
You were the one that gave it to him, so.
Taylor just thinks of a number he saw. on the
He
phone.
gave it to himself first.
No. You that was the exact score as someone that used to have the podcast. That it was your idea. You're like, how about we divide it by like a 2.5? And
It's
then
not my
add-
fault.
Divided by 2 and
He
add
gives
3.
Suicide Squad
It's-
10.
Something like that.
And gives Assassin's Creed 7.
Yeah, I
and
don't
I don't even remember. Gives Rogue One 10. What? That movie
Well,
deserves
what
a
are
one.
you
Who is
giving
this
this?
Let's see. I thought this was a great movie. I thought it was phenomenal. I think
Okay.
Hugh Jackman
All right.
said goodbye. It was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
That the range that he showed in this movie was just. If I can ever do anything in my life of that artistic quality, I can die happy. And
That's his
and
podcast.
Patrick Stewart as well. He goes from fun-loving grandpa to dementia at the very start of the movie. That scene was crazy good, and he also a very good Farrell. See you later. It's great to have you. X-23, I thought she was pretty good as well. Pretty good. And guy with metal hand, also pretty
That
good.
one scene where he like bends his fingers
Oh,
forward and back.
so
His
good.
name is
Yeah.
Donald Pierce.
Wow.
Him up. He had the little
Wow.
fingertips too. Do you see that? I bet he
I
stole
loved it.
those from
Yeah.
someone.
I loved it.
I bet he cut
For
them off
texting.
someone. Actually, it was
Jesus.
open Ziploc bags.
His hand
and
got
turned
fucked up a
photos
lot.
around.
His hand actually did. He
I feel
lowered his hand
like
a
there was
lot.
like 40% of the time he didn't have one hand.
No.
Mhm.
But
Um,
then-
like,
Yeah,
poor guy,
this
you know?
movie it was captivating from start to finish, and it was a long movie, so that was good as well. And then also, like I said earlier, not very many movies bring a tear to my eye, and I don't know if I've ever full on cried to a movie, but this got some tears. So shout outs to
minimum of 2
James
tears.
Goldman.
Mangold.
Well, I had
Mangold.
0 tears, so it's not a
James
minimum.
Mangold is, I
We're
said it
done.
once, I'll say it again. He is a man of gold. I don't know.
What
I
is
feel
your
like I said
score?
it.
Are you
Yeah, what's your
applying-
score, Dylan?
What's your score?
I'm thinking. That's why. I don't know what I'm gonna give it.
It's kind of like an Oscar.
Do you need one of us to
A
go?
gold man? Mangold?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Alright.
I think this was a phenomenal movie. And just a couple things that were like.
I know, it's a lot of commitment
That make
to
it-
like give a number.
There's a couple things that like make it not quite perfect for me. So I'm gonna drop it a quick 9.8.
Oh
Called
my
it in my
god.
head.
I
I
think I
called
can-
it in my head.
I was
knew
thinking
you
7.
were
I was
gonna
thinking
say
7.
it.
You know, I was thinking 7, but then I moved it to an 8, right?
Yeah.
I'll drop it a 9.8 out of
Okay.
10, of course.
Fair enough.
9.8 claws out of 10.
All right.
Alright, that's a lot of
And,
claws.
and were those 3 points just from that one scene?
2, actually.
Or
2
2
points.
points?
What
Point
scene?
2 points.
That right scene where he's giving his monologue, the scientist guy.
You didn't even remember what scene. So obviously
Yeah,
it wasn't that scene.
I thought you were talking about a good scene,
Oh.
so that's why I was confused.
No,
Where did it lose the point 2?
Yeah, no, that scene was kind of weird. I thought he was not a very good character in general. I thought like they could have done a better job with that. And then I don't know, just a couple like I guess that other scene with
Just like 0.2 scenes.
the camera. It didn't bother me as much as it did you, but it could get like a .005 out of me,
Oh, wow.
I don't know. It was not quite perfect, but it was a damn good movie.
And then we got 2 10s.
And comic book movies, congratulations, you've done a good job so far.
It's true.
Oh,
Lego
yeah.
Batman, I gave that. I
Oh.
dropped that a quick If you want to find out, go check out our review.
Dude, that was so good.
And then,
great year for
and then we got
movies.
this movie, and then oh shit, we got
Get
a ton
Out,
more.
but you didn't like
Justice League, like there's gonna be some good comic movies this year.
Tyler
Don't
Briggs.
say
Oh, yeah,
Justice
also-
League
Don't
good.
put those two together.
Also, yeah, I saw
No.
Get Out 2 days ago. Wow, good job, Logan. So much better than Get Out.
Wow.
Thanks.
I'm the one person who didn't like Get Out.
There's more. Don't worry.
I have not seen a single person who didn't.
We're like super
Really
off,
like Get Out.
we're like super off track here.
Tyler Briggs, what is your score to get us
You
back on
know,
track?
You're doing a really weird leg thing. It makes me.
I am. I've moved my legs around a lot, so for whoever's watching, I apologize if it's distracting or if I don't know. Give me your
They
feedback.
want to know what your score is. They
Give
don't
me
want
your
to hear about your legs.
Taylor Field says
Says
it's
the
not
man who just
fraudulent,
talked for about
Dylan.
5 minutes
It's a
before you
legit
even
scoring
score.
plan. So he's talking. Taylor Field's in the group chat in the
Ah,
YouTube
Taylor
live
Field.
chat.
Okay, well,
You should get the
apparently-
fuck out of here.
I
You've seen this
apparently
movie.
made that scoring plan, so therefore I have the
You have
executive
the-
right to say that it is incredibly fraudulent.
Let's get us back
He
on
brought it
track.
into this world. He can take it out of this
Tyler,
world.
what are you giving this film?
My score for this film, I'm gonna
See
give
it
it.
out of 10. Go see it. Just see it.
I mean, yeah, but. You know my score?
What?
What's your
Yeah,
score?
we're-
You don't
okay,
even-
okay,
Yeah,
good.
I'm
good.
ready
We're
for
ready,
the
we're ready.
score.
It's your podcast as much as it's mine.
I gotta give this a 10. For me,
Oh,
I think
surprise.
it's the first 10 I've given on cast and well deserved.
Warcraft?
I mean that's a we don't talk about
9.8. 9.8.
I forgot about it for a
9.8.
minute there. I'll be honest.
Clean up. Clean.
It's probably one of the first films that I can think of off the top of my head that made me feel this way. Just like so emotionally invested in just tearing up and just had like this is the first film where, as I said earlier, the credits started rolling and I was just like, wow.
Oh,
And I couldn't read the names.
Mm.
It was I just had to take a moment and just like sit there
so much
and
tears
just
in the eyes.
oh my goodness and just like get my shit together. And it took me by surprise. I was expecting great things from this film, but I also thought that there was going to be some bad things. I thought there were some things that they could have messed up, and they didn't at all. Just like the little interactions, all the characters just played so well, and I just think everything was just like in the right place, and everything just made sense to me, and it just flowed so well, and just, I don't know what to say. Like it's just prime.
Nice. So I'll speak for Kyle. He told me to give his review. He wanted to be here, but he's steeped in homework. He said he gave it 10 liters of tears out of 10, so he enjoyed this movie quite a bit as well. So it was worth all the hype. Myself, this movie had to do a lot of things. Like I said there at the beginning, there's a lot of boxes that need to check. It checked them all. Wolverine's my favorite Marvel character. Hugh Jackman's one of my favorite actors, and this was the last time we were going to see those two or those three combinations all together. And I think they had to knock it out of the park. If they didn't, it would have been known as a big fumble, especially if it's the last time. You can't. There's no redos. There's no go-backs.
Mm-hmm.
I do think this is a masterclass of a film. I think this is 100% up there with Dark Knight. I think the Oscar buzz that it's getting right now is warranted. Will it stick? It's March, so probably not, because films that don't release in October to December. But I could see it having a chance because Dark Knight didn't, but there was only 5 back in the day. There's 10 movies you can nominate now. I think it has a chance. I think Hugh Jackman actually has a chance. It's a comic book movie, so who knows? But I think it 100% deserves those accolades if it gets. It deserves the buzz that it's getting right now. If there is a first comic book film to get just nominated for Best Picture, this would be the perfect one. I would not change a thing about this movie. This movie is something I'm going to watch over and over. This movie was the perfect send-off for both Hugh Jackman and Professor X. X-23 is one of my newest favorite characters the past decade when they introduced her. Lots of the new characters, I'm kind of like, oh yeah, they're alright, like a new Hulk or whatnot. X-23 I've loved. She killed it. I like the villains. I like everything about this movie. It's phenomenal. It's a masterpiece in my opinion for comic books. I cannot wait to watch it again and see all the little things. And yeah, it was, and I applaud Fox for taking this risk because this is a superhero movie that I sat down, I'm like, man, we're seeing Wolverine, which is like this huge box office attraction in a radar movie, which is Deadpool. It's different. That was always supposed to be radar. Wolverine, we've seen PG-13. Would they pull that trigger? They did. And they're ballsy enough to start a comic book movie with a main character protagonist who's contemplating suicide at the very start of the movie. Like, this is grown, like, this is superhero movies grown up, and it's very great to see. And like I said, now there is a film to be had, that conversation with Dark Knight of, there's a legit conversation to be made for Logan against Dark Knight, and I cannot wait to watch this again. And yeah, love this movie. Great movie.
Nice.
Fantastic.
Did the secretary throw out a rating?
No, she said it was great. She just said that she doesn't think it'll get nominated for Oscars just because there's like comic booky things like the Logan clone. She said that she could, like, she saw ways that, like, people are talking about, but she still just thinks the Academy won't go over. She didn't say any negatives, so that she didn't. She just said, like, oh, because it's a comic movie, they'll probably still be a little snotty about it and be like, yeah, but he has claws. You know, like, so, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
You nominate a fucking movie, a bunch of blue aliens and Inception. I think you can nominate Logan, because this movie's better than those two.
Oh.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah.
He said it, folks. If Inception's your favorite movie, you know, you get mad
Suck
at this guy.
Anyways, who wants to do the shouts for the links while I get us ready to go home? Because Taylor Phil's not here.
You can find us on Facebook.
Nice try.
GeekVerse Podcast. I'm not gonna do this whole
You
internet
can find them
bullshit.
on Twitter.
SoundCloud,
Yeah.
iTunes, Twitch, yeah.
YouTube, the whole shebang.
Reddit, SoundCloud, Stitcher Radio, Google Play. If you, like, we were doing this the other day, we were just Googling GeekVerse Podcast. There's pages of sites
can-
I've never even heard of.
There's up to
We're on
6
there.
pages.
You can find us in places we don't even know.
Perfectly go on the
Yeah.
ones that we know about. That way
We
we
do
know
have
that
our
you're
own
there.
website. Check out our own website.
And most importantly, wherever you are in these places, throw us a like, a subscribe, a rating. Let us know. Give us that nice 5-star, because if you like what we do here, all this content we put out is free. That's all we ask is just, hey, give us a nice little 5-star. It helps us grow. It helps us get more reach out there.
If you want content early, we're on Patreon. $1, you can see some content early. Can ask us a question.
Early
even.
Yeah,
content.
we got another
Early
subscriber that next newscast he has a question for us, so we're going to get into that. So thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
What was I going to say? Check out GeekVerse Gauntlet. What was the newest one? It was Star Wars Trivia. Dylan,
2.
Tyler, and myself. The most controversial episode of the
Really
year.
fucking stupid.
That-
Go check
all
it
of
out and
it?
find out why.
I'm pretty sure I won that one. It was awful.
You
Like,
did.
I don't know how. I
Spoiler!
But you got to see how.
Spoilers.
Hashtag Travis was robbed.
Yeah.
Oh, well, me too. Me too.
well, Taylor,
That's not what the commenters say. I just get
Taylor should not have been a moderator on that. We'll
But
just
I
say
agree.
that.
Go search that. April 8th, I believe, is when we're crowning the champion. So there's only a
Wow.
few. There's only a month
really?
left.
Who will it
April
be?
8th. Who will be? I don't know. Checking out. It's the start of round 4 or 5.
94.
No,
Starting
5,
around.
isn't it?
I think it's 5.
4 was the one that just came
True.
out.
True. So
And
check
then
it out. Big time to check
next
on.
week is Kong.
We think so. I'm
Yeah.
not
It
sure
could
who's
happen.
going to be there. I'm not sure. I
I'm
don't
probably
think
gonna be there.
You're going to
I'll
probably
be there.
If someone
you're-
joins me, I'll do a review.
I will
You know
not.
what? I will do the same thing.
Me and Taylor and this guy.
I'll probably go. If you guys are going to
Oh.
go, I'll go. You just need to convince me a little. Like, I see that trailer. I'm like, I want to see it. I don't want to see it. But I
For
do
the
want to see that
fans.
big monkey on the
It'll be
screen.
fun. You know, it wouldn't be a review without you, Travis.
Oh, they're lying. They could do one without me. They just want me to.
We could, but I want you to be there. You know.
Without you, how would we ever get over the hour-long mark? You know?
I wouldn't feel
course.
bad.
You know,
About
you're not wrong.
That's fair enough. What was I gonna say? And then after this, you can look on our YouTube page. There's gonna be a quick video. We're gonna break down the Deadpool teaser very quickly. We're just gonna talk a little
I
bit
don't even know
about
what's
it.
to break down, so it'll be very quick.
Yeah, it's gonna be
Very
very
quick.
quick. Just a little appetizer.
A little tidbit.
It's like, you know how for
We're gonna talk about what's his name again? I forgot his actor.
Nathan Summers.
Ryan Reynolds.
I know.
Ryan Reynolds.
James
James
Mangold.
We're gonna talk about Ryan Reynolds, but because you get to see it. in
Yeah,
this-
exactly. So surprise
Not a
teaser.
first,
is
not a
shot.
first.
Hmm?
Not a first.
Well, no, but it's a second. It's a third.
It doesn't need to
fourth.
be.
It's never enough.
It'll be forever.
There you go.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for
We
tuning
promise you it will
in.
not be boring.
We promise you, wherever you hear from us next week, it'll not be boring.
See ya.
Thank you.
Bye.